What happens when the love of your life isn't a person at all? What if it's a creature wearing a face you trusted? Yours. Welcome to Sleepy Echoes Unwind, where the night remembers old stories. Tonight, we journey into a place where shadows linger and forgotten whispers rise with the dark. Now, light your lanterns, slow your breathing, and let us drift together into the hush of the night. Chapter 1. The Swipe That Answered Back. Gather close. I'm gonna tell you about a woman named Millie. Millie was in her early 20s. She lived down in Louisiana. Small town, humid air, long evenings. You could hear crickets through open windows at night. Millie wasn't looking for love. She had her family, close-knit Sunday dinners. She had friends, laughter, group texts, weekend plans. She wasn't lonely, but she was curious. There's a difference. One night, she downloaded a dating app. Just to browse, she told herself that. She scrolled in bed, ceiling fan spinning slow overhead. Street light shining through the blinds. Profiles passed by her thumb. Faces, smiles, posed photos. Men eager to talk. Messages popping up fast. She had options. More than she expected. Then she saw him. Cory. He wasn't her first choice. Not the best photo. Not the brightest smile. But something about him felt quiet. She swiped right. That's how it started. He messaged first. Simple words. Nothing impressive. She responded anyway. At first, the conversation was thin, like talking through a weak radio signal. Static. Cory lived in Mississippi. He was in college. Said he stayed busy. Their first phone call felt uneven. Millie talked. Cory mostly listened. Long pauses. Sometimes you could hear him shifting on the other end. Breathing. Sometimes he would pick up a guitar. He'd strum while she sat there, listening, not saying much. Then he'd say, "I'll call you later." He wouldn't. Days would pass. Silence. Millie didn't like inconsistency. It bothered her. So, one evening, she told him, plain and direct, "If you're going to be in my life, you need to show up. Not every other week. Not when it's convenient." There was a pause on the line. Long. Then he said, "Okay." And after that, he changed. Chapter 2. Consistency. The calls became daily. Morning texts. Afternoon check-ins. Late-night conversations that stretched past midnight. He talked more now. About school. About Mississippi. About how he didn't trust many people. He said Millie was different. She listened. The ceiling fan still turned above her. Her bedroom still smelled like clean laundry and lavender spray. But something felt different. Cory asked questions. Very specific ones. What time she left for work. What route she drove. Who lived in her house. When she was alone. He laughed it off if she hesitated. Said he was just curious. One night, during a call, he stopped. Mid-sentence, Millie heard something else. A second sound. Like whispering. Faint. She asked him what that was. He said, "Nothing, just the TV." Then, one night, he said it. "I want to see you." Millie hesitated. She barely knew him, but they had been talking every day. He had become consistent. She remembered her own rule. Consistency meant effort. Effort meant sincerity, right? So she said, "Sure." Chapter 2. The Visit. Cory drove hours and hours and hours to get to Millie's house. 4 hours from Mississippi to Louisiana. He said it wasn't a problem. Said he visited family in Louisiana often. What a coincidence that she just happened to live nearby. When he arrived, the sun had already gone down. It was nighttime. The sky was dark blue, turning black. The air was thick, humid. You could smell wet grass and pavement cooling off from the day. Millie stood on her porch waiting. A single streetlight glowed at the edge of the yard. Yellow, dim, buzzing faintly. Cory parked in front of her house. The car engine cut off. The driver's door opened slow. He stepped out. He was dressed up. Button-down shirt tucked in tight, blue jeans pressed flat, Sperry shoes clean and stiff. His glasses were squared frames, reflecting the streetlight. He squinted when he smiled, and he smiled wide, very wide. Millie noticed his teeth first. A large gap between the two front teeth. Another gap along the bottom row. He smiled like it didn't matter, like he'd never once tried to hide it. He walked toward her slowly. Millie felt confused. She had never seen anyone dressed like that to stand on a quiet porch in the dark. He didn't look like her type, but she reminded herself, he drove 4 hours. Consistency, right? They stood there on the porch, dark all around them. Only that buzzing streetlight. Cory was high energy. He talked fast, used his hands when he spoke, laughed loud. His teeth flashed every time. Millie listened. She nodded, kept her hands folded in front of her, reserved, quiet. The dynamic had shifted. On the phone, he'd been silent, let her fill the space. But here, he filled it all. Cory kept scanning the area, watching people pass, watching her phone when it buzzed, watching. When she laughed at something small, his face didn't change. When she looked away, he stared. Hidden conversation, wide smiles, laughter and charm. Millie never suspected a thing. He asked about her day, asked about her family inside, asked who else lived there. His eyes flicked past her shoulder once, toward the front window. Just once, but she noticed. Nothing felt wrong. Not exactly. He didn't raise his voice, didn't step too close, didn't say anything inappropriate. Still, Millie felt something small. Not fear, not yet. Just awareness. The visit stayed on the porch. No dinner, no long walk, just standing there, talking. The air grew heavier as the night stretched. Finally, Cory checked his watch, said he should head back. 4-hour drive, back to Mississippi. He hugged her, held on 1 second longer than expected, then stepped back, still smiling, that same wide smile. He got into his car. The engine started. Headlights flashed across the front of the house. For a moment, the beams lit up every window. Then he drove off. Millie stood there, alone on the porch. The night felt louder after he left. Crickets sharper, wind colder. She told herself it went well. He hadn't done anything wrong. He was consistent. He made the effort. She wasn't attracted to him, but she was impressed. Impressed that someone would drive that far. Impressed that someone would try that hard. She went inside. And the streetlight kept buzzing outside. Long after his car was gone. Consistency can look like dedication, but sometimes it's just someone making sure they know exactly where you live. And that porch would not be the last place he stood in the dark. Chapter 4. Paid in Full. After that visit, things picked up fast. Faster than before. Cory and Millie talked every single day. Morning, afternoon, late night. Sometimes they would fall asleep on the phone together, the line quiet except for breathing. Even though they were long distance, they became inseparable. If Millie stepped out of the room, Cory noticed. If she didn't respond to a text within minutes, he followed up. They found ways to stay connected. Friday nights became movie nights. Every Friday, Millie and her mother would sit down together over dinner and watch a film. It was routine, familiar, comfortable. But Cory suggested joining. "Just press play at the same time," he said. "We can watch together." Millie didn't see a problem with it. They were growing closer each day. It was just a movie. When she mentioned it to her mother agreed, though she hesitated for a second too long. They had only been talking for about 2 months. Still, the movie nights began. Millie sat on the couch, her mother beside her. Phone propped up on the coffee table so Cory could listen. Sometimes he would laugh before they did. Sometimes he would comment on scenes before they happened. It felt attentive. It felt sweet. Cory started doing a lot for Millie. Whatever she needed, he provided. And the strange part was, she rarely asked. He anticipated things, small details. If she mentioned being tired, he ordered food to her house. If she mentioned being short on cash, he sent money. One night, she said she was hungry. Without hesitation, he gave her his credit card information. "Use it," he said. "Get whatever you want." Millie froze. They weren't officially in a relationship. It had only been weeks. "Are you sure?" she asked. "You don't really know me like that." He didn't hesitate. "I trust you, Millie." She used the card, ordered dinner, thanked him. After that, it became normal. If she needed gas money, he sent it. If she needed groceries, he offered. If she mentioned a bill, he asked how much. He never complained, never asked for anything back. It felt generous. It felt protective. One day, Millie had a dentist appointment. She didn't drive yet. She was still working on getting her license. Cory volunteered immediately. "I'll take you." That meant 4 hours to Louisiana, 4 hours back. He drove anyway. The dentist appointment went smoothly. The office smelled like antiseptic and mint. The lights were bright, the chair stiff. When Millie walked into the waiting room afterward, she saw Cory sitting there, hands folded, watching the hallway. She felt admiration. He really came all this way from me. She walked to the front desk. The receptionist told her the total. $190. You don't have to pay today. You can pay later. Millie nodded. She didn't know how she would cover it. The thought sat heavy in her stomach. Cory drove her home. They sat on the porch for a while. He smiled the whole time. Then he drove back to Mississippi. A week later, Millie called the dentist office. She was ready to pay the bill. The receptionist answered calmly. "Oh, that's already been paid." Millie blinked. "Paid?" she asked. "By who?" There was a shuffle of papers. "Cory Smith." Millie felt her chest tighten. He never told her. He never mentioned overhearing the amount at the front desk. He just paid it without saying a word. She stood there, holding the phone to her ear. The room was quiet, too quiet. She replayed the memory. He had been sitting just a few feet away when she spoke to the receptionist. Listening, watching, waiting. And she hadn't even noticed. My goodness, she whispered to herself after hanging up. He'd do all of that for me? She felt overwhelmed, enamored, chosen. But beneath that warmth, there was something else. A small, steady realization. Cory wasn't just generous. He was always present, always listening. Even when she forgot he was there. And sometimes, when someone pays your debts without telling you, they start to feel like they own a piece of you. Millie didn't know it yet, but gifts can be anchors, and anchors are meant to keep you from leaving. Chapter 5. The Beginning. 2 more weeks passed, and while those 2 weeks were passing, Cory was thinking, planning, plotting. He realized he had been doing quite a bit for Millie, driving long hours, paying bills, buying food, sitting on that porch for hours and hours in the Louisiana heat. And Millie was not yet his girlfriend. One evening, over the phone, his tone shifted. Less playful, less animated, blunt. "Millie," he said, "we've been talking for a while now. I want you to be my girlfriend." Millie blinked, staring at her bedroom wall. It felt fast. "It's only been 2 months," she said carefully. There was a pause on the line. Then Cory answered, voice flat. "Well, I've been doing a lot for you. And if you're not my girlfriend, those things will stop. You don't get girlfriend benefits unless you are a girlfriend." His voice had no warmth when he said it, no smile behind it, just matter of fact. Millie sat there in silence. She thought about the money, the rides, the dentist bill, the late-night calls. He had been consistent, attentive, present. What harm could it do? She whispered to herself. So she said, yes. Cory's tone changed instantly. He became animated again, loud, excited, overjoyed. Millie held the phone to her ear and listened to him celebrate her answer. And just like that, it began. He visited more often after that, sat on the porch longer, talked more, asked more questions. Millie listened. She was open, but guarded. It still felt early, only 2 months. Now they were in a relationship. Cory studied her without her realizing it. Her tone when she was annoyed, how she smiled when she was uncomfortable, what she said she liked and what she didn't like. He noticed everything. Millie thought he was just trying to get close, trying to know her better. She didn't see the pattern. 2 weeks later, He gave her his mother's ring. He told her his mother had stage 4 colon cancer. His voice sounded heavy. "It would mean everything to me," he said, "if you wore her ring." He sent her a picture. The ring was gold, slightly dull, scratched, worn down from years of use. It wasn't a traditional proposal. It happened over the phone. But the meaning was clear. He wanted to be engaged. Millie's chest tightened. 2 months and 2 weeks. That's all it had been. "Ask your mother if she's sure," Millie said quietly. He answered quickly. "She's fine with it. She's always wanted a daughter-in-law." Millie agreed, reluctantly. Cory bought himself a ring too, saying he wanted to match her to symbolize their love. When he finally slid his mother's ring onto Millie's finger, it didn't fit. It was too big. So he said he'd get her another ring. Millie felt relief. If she was going to be engaged, she at least wanted a ring she liked. They went to jewelry stores together. Bright lights, glass cases, clean counters. They tried on rings. Millie admired a few. Cory smiled, but his eyes calculated. He knew he couldn't afford those rings, not the ones in those big stores. But he didn't say that. They left each store casually, browsed other shops, pretended it was all light and fun. One day, Millie thought, "This is going well enough. He's my fiancé now. Why are we still sitting on the porch?" So she invited him inside. Inside was air conditioning, television, food, comfort. Inside also lived her family. 5 people in that house. Her mother, her aunt, 2 cousins, and Millie. Cory walked in with confidence. He greeted everyone warmly, shook hands, smiled wide. That same wide smile. He studied each family member, how they joked, how they disagreed, who spoke the most, who stayed quiet. He adjusted himself to fit in. Charming, knowledgeable, confident. Millie watched him talk with her mother at the kitchen table, watched him laugh loudly with her cousins. He blended in so smoothly. She felt proud. Wow, she thought, he's really putting in effort. He's stepping into my world. Jokes flowed easily. Conversation felt natural. It looked perfect. Later that night, Cory left. Her family talked about him. They loved him, especially her mother. But one cousin leaned in close to Millie and whispered, "He seems a little too good to be true." Millie frowned slightly, dismissed it. He hadn't done anything wrong. He was generous, attentive, engaged. What could possibly be wrong with that? But sometimes, when someone fits perfectly into your world, it's because they've studied the blueprint. And Cory was very good at studying. Chapter 6: The Ring and the Reckoning. One day, Cory arrived with the ring. Not quite what Millie remembered trying on at any of the big-name stores. It was small, gold, a little dull, the metal thin and uneven, the setting cheap-looking, like the stones could fall out if handled roughly. "Where'd you get this?" Millie asked, squinting. "Kay's jewelry," he said casually. She shrugged and held out her hand. He opened the ring box as they sat together on the couch. Then, with a smile she hadn't anticipated, he asked her to be his wife. Millie hadn't expected that. She hadn't known that would happen today. But he had planned it. And without thinking, without hesitation, she said yes. She had already said yes before, so it felt automatic. He slid the ring onto her finger with such excitement, and Millie was officially engaged. Millie used to be very close with her family. Every member meant something to her. But as Cory became more present, the more she saw less of her own family. She started spending almost all of her time with him. It felt like a whirlwind. One laugh after another, one joke after the next. Cory was attentive, always anticipating her needs. Pretty much everything Millie wanted or needed, he provided. And then came his next request. He told Millie to let go of the friends she had, especially the male friends, because he could provide everything she needed. Millie hesitated for only a moment. He was engaged to her. He seemed capable. She agreed, and so she let go of those friendships and focused solely on Cory as her new best, her only friend. Cory stepped into that role completely, and Millie didn't complain. Whatever she needed, she asked, and he delivered, always without objection. To him, Millie was perfect, the shiny star in his sky. One afternoon, they were sitting on the couch talking when his phone buzzed. Millie peeped over and saw a name. A woman. Her chest tightened. She felt rage flare. "You had me get rid of my male friends. You get rid of your female friends," she said sharply. Cory didn't flinch. Not at all. He went through every contact, every message, and made sure Millie knew he had removed the women from his life. He provided proof, evidence. Everything checked out. Millie didn't have to wonder or second guess. She trusted him even more. And as he continued to anticipate her needs, as he continued to provide, her walls fell further and further. Summer was nearing its end. Graduation for Cory approached. He told Millie he'd be moving to Louisiana to be closer to his sick mother, who had stage 4 colon cancer. "It'll be good for us," he said, voice warm, "to spend more time together now that I'll be near you." Millie was excited. Every day became something to look forward to. Cory even started a countdown calendar, counting the days until he would be reunited with his fiancée. Both of them were anticipating the day he would be closer, ready to spend every day together. But Millie didn't know that from that point forward, things would only go downhill. The whirlwind she thought was happiness was just the beginning of a different kind of storm. And the calm wouldn't last. Tonight, before you sleep, think about this. What would it take for someone to earn your trust? Consistency? Sacrifice? Generosity? And if all of those things came too fast, would you feel lucky or watched? Tell me, where do you think Millie should have walked away? Thank you for joining this moonlit journey. If you'd like to unwind with more tales each week, light your lantern and subscribe. For now, blow out your lantern. We shall meet again.